On the corner of 72nd Street and Central Park West stands a building that looks like it was transported from a European fairy tale. With its Gothic gables, ornate iron balconies and fortress-like presence, the Dakota isn't just an apartment building, it's a monument to ambition, tragedy and the ever-evolving story of New York City itself. Built in 1884, when this part of Manhattan was so remote, it might as well have been in the Dakota Territory, hence the name. This building has witnessed 140 years of history. It's where John Lennon lived and died, where Rosemary's Baby was filmed, where some of New York's most influential artists, musicians and cultural figures have called home. This is the story of the Dakota. In the early 1880s, the Upper West Side was essentially farmland. While the wealthy clustered around Washington Square and Fifth Avenue below 59th Street, developer Edward Clark had a bold vision: build the most luxurious apartment building New York had ever seen, miles away from where anyone actually lived. Clark was the president of the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and he had money to burn. He hired architect Henry Janeway Hardenberg, who would later design the Plaza Hotel, to create something unprecedented. Construction began in 1880 and took 4 years to complete, an enormous undertaking for the era. Clark spared no expense. The building's foundation went deep, necessary because the structure would weigh approximately £20 million when complete. The walls at the base are over 2 feet thick, built from brick faced with yellowish Nova Scotia sandstone and decorated with terracotta panels. The Dakota contains over 4 million bricks, workers laid each one by hand. The building rises 10 stories, 8 main floors plus a ground level basement and an attic level. But it was engineered to support additional floors if needed, a testament to the forward-thinking construction techniques. Hardenberg's design brilliance shows in the details. The building is built around a central courtyard, 65 feet by 85 feet, accessed through a massive arched entrance on 72nd Street that's tall enough for carriages to pass through. This wasn't just aesthetic. It created natural light and ventilation for interior rooms, solving one of apartment living's biggest problems. The Dakota was one of the first buildings in New York to use electric lighting, though it initially had both gas and electric fixtures, because in 1884 nobody quite trusted electricity yet. The building generated its own power with a massive steam engine in the basement and had its own wells for water supply. The mechanical systems were revolutionary. Each apartment had its own coal-burning fireplace for heating, but there was also a central heating system, unheard of at the time. Each of the 65 original units was essentially a mansion in the sky. The smallest apartments had 4 bedrooms, the largest had up to 20 rooms. Every apartment featured multiple parlours, libraries, dining rooms that could seat 20 guests, butlers' pantries and separate servants' quarters accessed by back staircases. The attention to detail was obsessive. Mahogany, oak and cherry wood panelling throughout. Marble fireplaces in every major room. Some apartments had 10 or more fireplaces. The bathrooms were outfitted with the latest technology. Porcelain fixtures, hot and cold running water and even early versions of shower baths. Remember, this was an era when most New Yorkers still used outhouses. The kitchens were designed for full household staff with massive coal-burning stoves, ice boxes built into the walls, and dumbwaiters connecting to basement storage areas. Ceilings soared to 14 or 15 feet, creating cathedral-like proportions. Windows were floor to ceiling in many rooms, offering sweeping views of Central Park. Views that, in 1884, extended all the way to the Hudson River. Look closely at the facade and you'll spot decorative Indian heads, a nod to the building's Dakota name. There are also cherubs, gargoyles and grotesques perched throughout. And those gabled dormers on the roof, they weren't just decorative. They housed servants' quarters and storage spaces, essentially creating an 11th floor. What made the Dakota truly revolutionary was that it made apartment living respectable for the wealthy. Before the Dakota, affluent New Yorkers lived in townhouses. Apartments were for the poor. Clark changed that equation by making the Dakota so luxurious, so exclusive, that living there became a status symbol. Edward Clark died before the building was completed, never seeing his vision realised. But within a decade, the wilderness around the Dakota was filling in, and the Upper West Side became one of New York's most desirable neighbourhoods. By the mid-20th century, the Dakota had become a magnet for creative talent. But getting in, that was another story entirely. The Dakota's co-op board is legendary for its exclusivity. Even being wealthy and famous isn't enough. The building has reportedly rejected everyone from Cher to Billy Joel to Antonio Banderas and Melanie Griffith. The unofficial motto seems to be, "We don't care about your fame, we care about whether you fit our vision of what the Dakota should be." So, who did make the cut? Lauren Bacall lived there for over 50 years until her death in 2014. Leonard Bernstein composed some of his greatest works within these walls. Judy Garland lived there, Boris Karloff, Roberta Flack, Rex Reed. The list reads like a who's who of 20th century arts and culture, but no resident is more synonymous with the Dakota than John Lennon. John and Yoko moved into apartment 72 in 1973, paying $225,000 for what would eventually become a combination of several units. Lennon loved the Dakota. He'd often be seen around the neighbourhood chatting with neighbours, buying records at local shops. For a man who'd lived his adult life under siege by fans and media, the Dakota offered something precious: privacy. The building's staff and residents formed a protective barrier. Inside those gates, John Lennon could just be a dad raising his son Sean. Until December 8th, 1980.
Now the news. Tonight we begin with the killing of a man who became a legend in...
On that Monday evening, John Lennon and Yoko Ono returned to the Dakota around 10:50 p.m. after a recording session. As they walked through the arched entrance, a man who'd gotten Lennon's autograph earlier that day stepped out of the shadows. Mark David Chapman fired 5 shots, 4 hit Lennon. He stumbled into the Dakota's office, said, "I'm shot," and collapsed. He was pronounced dead at Roosevelt Hospital at 11:15 p.m. The world stopped. In an era before social media, news spread through late-night radio broadcasts and tear-stained phone calls. By morning, hundreds of people had gathered outside the Dakota. Within days, it was thousands. Yoko Ono still lives in the Dakota. She never left apartment 72. Across the street in Central Park, Strawberry Fields serves as a living memorial where fans still gather daily to remember Lennon at the Imagine mosaic. The Dakota itself became even more fortress-like after that night. Security intensified. The privacy that residents treasured became more strictly guarded. The building that had welcomed John Lennon as a sanctuary would forever be marked by his murder at its entrance. But the Dakota's place in popular culture extends beyond its famous residents. In 1968, Roman Polanski chose the building as the primary filming location for Rosemary's Baby, the psychological horror film about a young woman who suspects her neighbours are Satanists trying to use her baby for their rituals. The Dakota's Gothic architecture, its maze-like corridors and its imposing presence made it the perfect setting for paranoia and dread. Since then, the Dakota has appeared in countless films and TV shows, from Hannah and Her Sisters to Vanilla Sky. Its distinctive silhouette is instantly recognisable to New Yorkers and film buffs alike. And then there are the ghost stories. Residents and staff have reported paranormal experiences for decades. Some claim to have seen a little girl bouncing a ball in the corridors. Edward Clark, building's original developer, is rumoured to be a ghost who still watches over the building, with some workers and residents reporting seeing a figure that resembles him during renovations. Then there's the crying lady ghost, often described as a woman weeping for a lost child. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying the Dakota has an atmosphere unlike any other building in New York. Today, the Dakota remains one of New York's most exclusive addresses. Apartments rarely come on the market, but when they do, they command staggering prices. In 2023, units have sold for between $5 million and $30 million, and those are the smaller ones. The building was designated a New York City landmark in 1969 and added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. This means the exterior is protected, preserving Hardenberg's vision for future generations. Current residents include a who's who of entertainment and finance, though the co-op board keeps the roster private. What we do know is that the Dakota continues its tradition of selecting residents who align with its particular culture. The neighbourhood around it has transformed completely. Where Edward Clark once built in isolation, the Upper West Side is now one of Manhattan's most densely populated and culturally rich areas. But the Dakota still stands apart, literally and figuratively. The Dakota is more than a building, it's a time capsule of Gilded Age ambition, a witness to 140 years of New York history, a home to artists and dreamers, and the site of one of modern history's most shocking tragedies. It's a fortress and a sanctuary, a landmark and a home, a place of beauty and sorrow. In a city that never stops changing, the Dakota endures. Gothic, mysterious, and utterly New York. If you enjoyed diving into the secrets of the Dakota, hit that like button and subscribe for more architectural deep dives into the buildings that shaped our cities. What other iconic buildings should we explore? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Next time we're exploring a building so thin people thought it would blow over in the first strong wind. The world's first viral photograph, a technological marvel, and the skyscraper that proved triangles could make for great architecture. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.